Hello, let's talk about foreign affairs because there's really a lot going on in the world that's very interesting. However, the United States is just focusing inward on drama, and the United States is just really becoming a very vapid country. But there's a lot going on around the world if you follow news from outside of the United States. So, first, let's talk about Nepal and what they're calling, I guess you would call it Gen Z riots or revolution or whatever. But Gen Z, they pretty much overthrew the government in Nepal, and they took out their first lady and burned down what I guess is like the presidential palace or something. It's pretty wild. Sounds like it's, a matter of civil rights and opportunities, and Gen Z over there just simply is not having it. Okay, there are also riots in the streets of Paris, France. And I know that Macron appointed a new prime minister. And I guess, prime minister is different than what it is in the UK because this person was appointed by Macron, and I don't know if that is the source of the drama. It's kind of hard for me to figure out what the source of the drama is. I'm not doing a lot of like deep study, but just kind of like Google searches. The media, they will show a lot of pictures of people, you know, out in the streets and acting up a little bit, and then they will ask a person in the street like, why are you here? And they'll say, we want change, but they're not saying what the change is. And it's been a little bit difficult for me to try and sort out what the gripe is. um, I know it's a matter of budgets, like yeah, I guess like budget cuts and stuff like that. So yeah, austerity measures cause a lot of unrest in those EU countries. But I'm also wondering, um, did some of these countries like Mali and Burkina Faso cause this? Because I know some of those African countries, those West African countries that used to be French colonies, they pushed France back a little bit and took ownership over their own resources. So I'm just sitting here watching this, like these riots in the streets of Paris. And I'm like, my goodness, did Mali cause this? Did Burkina Faso cause this? Uh, how's that? I don't know. I mean, that's a pretty fragile economy, seems like to me. And I also don't understand how France is having all these problems when, I mean, they colonized people and still like pretty much colonized people, I mean, for centuries. How are these countries that have been colonizing people for centuries all of a sudden don't have any money? Like, where is the money? Where is the money? Um, I'm getting to the UK as well. So it's just very interesting. Anyway, moving on. So, talking about France. France is pretty much, possibly, I guess, preparing for war because Russia is trying to square up with NATO, and France is a NATO country, and the United States is just being very vapid and focused on domestic drama that they're not leading NATO like they have in the past, and they're not real focused on like foreign affairs. Our president now is focused on Memphis, Tennessee, crime and menace. Memphis, Tennessee, and he's going to dispatch the military. He was threatening Chicago, but Chicago and the governor of Illinois, they pushed back a little bit. And again, fragility, he meaning Trump, uh, decided to set his sights somewhere else on a little bit of an easier target, which would be Memphis, Tennessee. I don't think there's as much resources there, not as much money there, and it's a red state with a Republican governor, so there's that. But anyway, back to France. Macron is looks like he might be preparing for war to lead NATO against Russia because Russia is out there squaring up. But let's see, I know gosh, there was something about some drones in Poland or over Poland. And anyway, over the last few days, Russia has been out in one of the seas near a NATO country and, demonstrating weapons with his navy. So France is, I guess, stepping up in NATO. Maybe that's where the resources and all the money is going, and they could be preparing and strategizing to fight. Now, the United States is a NATO country, and when you look at the list of NATO countries, it's a long list. I mean, that is a big deal. While we're over here in the United States focusing on like street crime in Memphis, Tennessee, and podcasters, I mean, this situation with NATO, I mean, it could be very, very serious with NATO and Russia. Anyway, the UK, there have also been demonstrations in London over the last week or so. And it sounds like they're like anti immigration protests. And now Trump is over there actually visiting. And there are more protests now that Trump is there. That seems to follow him everywhere that he goes. So, yeah, there is that. And again, UK's another one. Um, I know, I think it was a couple of years ago, the UK was having some issues. Um, it just, money issues for, a lot of citizens are having a hard time. And it's just like, where is y'all's money? Where is y'all's money? Like, I mean, how many countries are there that have declared independence from the UK and there is still like a commonwealth? And I don't know how all that works, but I'm just like, where's y'all's money? So there's that. And another thing, um, with the Church of England, it is unclear if Charles and William are Christian. Uh, if you listen to like Christian commentary and Christian media here on YouTube coming out of the UK, there are some people that have their doubts about um, the faith, the Christian faith of King Charles and Prince William. Um, I know last Christmas, a lot of people were kind of speculating because, Prince Charles makes that Christmas address to the UK, and I guess the way he worded it kind of implied that he was much more open to, let's say, um, not a strictly Christian faith. Like he was just kind of open to, a lot of different faiths. It kind of reminds me of that bumper sticker that we've all seen where it says like coexist, and it takes the various symbols from different religions and says coexist on a bumper sticker. They're implying that that's kind of Prince Charles's mentality, which is fine from an American perspective, but from the perspective of history and like his role as king, that is huge. So again, the Church of England is making its mark. So, we will see what happens. And I mean, just the fact that it's not real clear where Charles stands as a Christian and William, I mean, that in and of itself speaks volumes. Um, a lack of clarity speaks a lot, speaks volumes in a lot of situations. And I watched King Charles's coronation, and I remember looking at William, and I was like, dang, man, William has an attitude. He acts like he does not feel like being there. And I just kind of figured that it had to do maybe with, family friction, which it probably does. I would imagine that there is a lot of friction in that family, and it's not the warmest, fuzziest family around, especially now that grandma is gone. But William probably just did not feel like being in church either. So there's that. And, back to the US. Yeah, if you're in the US, pray for us. If you're outside of the US, pray for us. We need it because we got a lot of drama and conspiracy theories going on over here. And yeah, so that is it. And again, we're being vapid and focused in on drama as opposed to kind of seeing where we at this stage fit into the world. And there is a lot going on in the world. So, yeah, that's all I had to say about that. I've been kind of focused in on a lot of what's going on in the United States, but I would say maybe a couple of days ago, I kind of plugged more into foreign affairs. And I was just like, oh my goodness, there's a lot going on. And the United States, which is, supposed to lead the West and lead the free world, we're being kind of vapid over here. So I don't know. I don't know what to say. I wish things were different. I feel like there are so many things that, didn't have to happen. And it's unfortunate that they have happened and are happening, but I do not know. So, anyway, thanks for watching and have a wonderful day. Bye.